Hello, my name is Anne Russell. I've been reading from my book, Alcohol and Pregnancy, My Responsible Disturbance. I've been reading chapter by chapter, and this is the second chapter. If anybody would like to buy my book, it's available on Amazon. Otherwise, it's available here, and we'll eventually get to the end for free. I've had quite a number of comments about the book, and I'm really grateful to those people who have commented, and I hope this is helping people. It's kind of nice to read something about such a difficult condition that someone else has gone through, especially if you connect with that person or connect with their situation. So anyway, chapter 2, it's called The Next Step. Back in the shed, I slowly unwrapped the noose from the beam. I took a long look around and sighed. I knew I'd have to confront Seth about what was going on, because ignoring the situation in the hope that it would resolve on its own was risking his life. He was unstable, and to compound matters, he was virtually unapproachable, and his emotional state fluctuated from silently but deeply depressed to irritated, angry, unpredictable and violent. I walked back to the house and knocked on the door to his bedroom. "Seth, can I talk to you?" He was angry. "No, fuck off." Not particularly surprised by his language, I said, "Please, Seth, open the door. We need to talk." He wasn't interested in talking to me, but he opened the door a crack. I could see that there was another hole in the far wall. "Seth's dad and I found the ladder and noose in the shed. What was that all about? Do you still feel like that?" His laugh frightened me. "It was just a joke," he said. Before he slammed the door, I glanced around his room in horror. "I want to die" was written in black marker pen on every piece of his furniture. Fearing that he was at risk whenever he was out of our sight, I took time off work. I wanted him to see our doctor, but he refused. He could see I was more distressed than he had ever seen me, and eventually it must have made an impression. He reluctantly agreed to visit our GP, Dr. Purdy. Unfortunately, this visit resulted in no real plan for the future. I remember the doctor saying he still wants to live at home. He likes living at home, as though he was surprised that our problem wasn't related to our parenting or our relationship with our children. I suspected our doctor believed we were experiencing a typical parent-teenager clash. I knew it was much more than that. We actually got on well when he was well, but when he wanted something, more often than not it was money for drugs or alcohol, or a toy that was for a far younger child, he would begin this repetitive, exaggerated, almost OCD-like behaviour. It was as though his brain wouldn't allow him to change his mind once it had been made up. Another 2 weeks found me desperate yet again. All I could do was go to the doctor again. I told him Seth was suicidal. Seth told him it was a stupid joke. I told the doctor I was scared for Seth's safety. Seth told Dr. Purdy he was fine. I suggested that Seth could use antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication. Seth refused any and all medication. A fear-filled future stretched out in front of me. What could I possibly do to help him when he refused any help at all? A few nights after the visit to our doctor, one of Seth's friends called me. She was concerned about him. He was behaving bizarrely, and she was worried he would hurt himself. I dropped what I was doing and drove down to the address she had given. When I arrived at the house, Seth came out to meet me with tears in his eyes. He ran up to me, threw his arms around my neck and sobbed, "Mum, I can't live like this anymore. I can't live like this." I took a moment to digest what he'd said and stupidly told him, "Shh, Seth, it'll be okay. Tell me what happened. Everything will be okay." I damn well knew everything would not be okay, but I persisted. "It's going to be fine." No, it won't, Mum. You know that ladder and noose. I was going to hang myself. I've tried it before. I've no friends, nobody who cares about me. They just leave me when I don't have money to give them. They don't stay no matter what I do and how much I try and be friends with them. What's wrong with me? Seth, you have Dad and me. Tom is always around at our house, and Jenny rang me because she was worried about you. That shows that you have people who care about you. Tom was one of Seth's oldest friends, and Jenny had recently moved into a house in the next street and had the courage to ring me when she was worried about him. That's different. I can't tell Tom anything. Perhaps you could see a counsellor. They can help you. No, I won't ever see a counsellor, he yelled. Okay, Seth, okay, it's okay. You can talk to me then, I said much more calmly than I felt. Honestly, I didn't want to be his confidant. I already knew much more than I wanted to about his experience as a young teenager. I wasn't sure I could cope with more. The things I had found in his room that he never seemed to be particularly concerned about hiding frightened me to death. When I was in year 8, I came home from school, found a knife and was going to kill myself. I ran into the bathroom, but Tom yelled at me through the door. He rang Kids Helpline and they told him what to say to me. I've run in front of trucks and cars on the road hoping they'd hit me. I don't even remember how many times I've done that. Oh God, Seth, why didn't you tell us you were feeling like that? Why didn't you tell Dr. Purdy? He could have helped. No one can do anything. I'm no good. I'm useless. Everything I do turns out wrong. The teachers used to pick on me because I couldn't remember what to do. But I was trying hard. I just couldn't do it. And now I haven't got a job. I knew I couldn't challenge him about the stealing. If I did, I would lose the connection we had right there and then. Instead, I said, Seth, this is life. Things like this happen to people sometimes. We just have to get through them and work them out. You'll always have Dad and me. We love you so much and we'll always be there for you. I think you may be very depressed and may just need some medication to help you for a while. I'm not taking pills or anything that comes from a doctor. I won't. They haven't helped me before. Dr. Purdy doesn't do anything. He just talks to me, he went on, and half the time I have no idea what he's saying to me. Okay, let's see how you go. Why don't you come home with me now? You've had enough to drink. No, I don't want to come home, but I'll be okay, he said, his voice dropping to a more reasonable level. I've got my mobile so you can ring me. I'm okay now, he stated firmly, and he did seem to be calming down a little. He began fidgeting with his bag, and I knew I didn't have much longer with him before he walked away. I was worried that the neighbours would call the police, and as angry and as upset as he was, Seth would only need a little more provocation to escalate. By this stage, I was so scared for him, I was shaking like a leaf. I knew I would be awake for the rest of the night and wondered if I would ever sleep again. I tried once more. Please, Seth, please come home with me. I'm so scared for you. I couldn't bear it if anything happened to you. Please, I begged him. Unfamiliar tears streamed down my face, but I had no idea how to stop them. I wasn't a crier. Don had remarked on it once when good friends of ours had moved away. Everyone cried when we said goodbye, even Macho Don, but I didn't. I think the reason I couldn't was because I'd been scolded as a child whenever I did. With a twist of her lip, my mother would say, "You look ridiculous, look at you." I didn't want to give her another reason to yell at me, so I stopped crying. Until that night, nothing had caused me to cry in front of anyone in 40 years. Seth was resolute, though. He would remain with his friends. Well, tell me what you're going to do for the rest of the evening. Please, Seth, I won't be able to sleep otherwise, I said. Okay, Mum, I'm going for a drive with Ian. He hasn't been drinking, so we're all going into town just for something to do. I'll be okay, Mum. Ring me on my mobile if you like. Seth was calming down. Seth, can you promise me that you won't hurt yourself tonight? You have to promise, I said, wiping my face with my hand. I promise, Mum. I will be okay. I feel better already. Thanks for coming down. As he turned to go, I saw cut marks on his arms that I hadn't seen before because of the poor light, but it was too late. He'd gone. I stood immobile, wondering where I would find the courage to place one foot after the other, unable to contemplate what the rest of the night would bring and whether my beautiful son would still be alive in the morning. I felt increasingly ill and my stomach churned. I wondered if I would ever again feel so much pity and pain for another human being. I knew I had to do something to save this sad, tortured boy, but what? I didn't even know what was wrong with him. What could I possibly do to help him? That was chapter 2. I guess you can see that this isn't an enlightening, humorous book. It's a very fair representation of our experience, sometimes almost word for word. It's not going to uplift you, but it is going to show you the typical trajectory of a child with FASD, and eventually I hope will show you that if you persevere, things can turn out. Thank you very much.